Good afternoon. This is Francesca Ciampa. I am a lecturer of architectural technology at the Department of Architecture at the University of Naples Federico II in Italy. I am glad to introduce my presentation on creative approaches to regenerate the cultural heritage of cities in transformation. The presentation outline concerns three main parts. The first one, dealing with cultural heritage, brings to design the following research question. Cultural heritage can be considered as a resource for balancing the merging of tangible and intangible values of built environment. In territories with high tourist pressure, can the active role of communities determine models of valorization of resources against processes of homologation of identity values? And the third one, can we introduce as a researcher a regeneration model aimed at increasing the social cohesion and improving the quality of the built environment? So, the second part is intended to show the methodological process, learning from good practice to build an innovative regeneration model. Starting from Shaka, a good practice of social networking to build territorial fruition paths aimed at rediscovering the local values, the research reflect on the binomial between slowness and creativity and how it can influence the way of life both in temporal and physical dimension. So the outcome of research concerning a model of cultural heritage self-regeneration over time by introducing key elements performance in continuous urban transformation. So, towards creative approaches to regenerate cities in transformation, the collaborative community system have the ability to face the dynamics of gentrification and touristification too of contemporary cities. And to the end, we illustrate a best practice for built heritage communities starting from bottom-up active network. The new way of rethinking the city by looking at cultural heritage can be considered as a paradigm of urban change. What means that the settlement system can be interpreted as consolidated expression of common culture built over the time by the community and that inhabits them. So the cultural heritage can be considered as the results of balanced mix of material and immaterial values, which constitute the main resources for the redevelopment of the territories in which they exist specifically. And what means tangible heritage? It consists in the product, the physical product of creative action that community imprints on the available resources. Instead, the intangible culture, the intangible heritage, could be considered as the value that derive from such operation and that in a circular perspective in turn produce a materiality that affect the strategies of territorial redevelopment. In this sense, the research investigates how the cultural heritage is able to regenerate itself over the time by introducing elements of performance in this continuous transformation. This assumes the transferability in other contexts based on the, for example, creativity approach to face the dynamics of gentrification and touristification of contemporary cities. In details, the urban metabolism, increasing accelerated, is rethought through a process of slowing down typical of the lifestyle of the Italian social movements of the slow city or città slow. In the latter, we can try to decline it according to four main aspects: proximity, circularity, walkability, and livability. The creative reuse of available materials resources is an innovative strategy for the protection of intangible heritage and also to preserve the roots and value of the community. So the intangible capital has a formative capacity that through cultural strengths help to stimulate processes that build communities. In the same way, it has a cognitive capacity able of multiplying the bonds of fragmenting society, protecting the collective memory and regenerate at the same time cohesion with the settlement system. With a view to decreasing, to slow down of urban metabolism, is a good practice to rebalance dissipative and degenerative processes, restoring to the community an active role towards the construction of hybrid links between different components of reality that also contribute to the sustainable development of this city. So, urban centrists have reacted the impacts of globalization. This kind of reaction to this impact can happen through forms of creative reuse of existing resources in their territory. The material and material values represent the sedimental of strongly territorialized identity, which was the main tool opposite to the impacts of this kind of globalization. So the interpretation of the city as a dynamic system of synergic relationship between place and identity has allowed the development of innovative forms of urban regeneration, linking to the creative capacity of culture to trigger circular synergies. Urban dynamics finalized through the cultural and reactivation of respective territorial activities means exploring the cultural identity of the place through a process of the growth that reconstructs the complex bond of reciprocity and interdependence between nature, culture, and economy. This is the case of five senses of Shaka, starting from the touch, taste, sight, smell, and hearing senses. The case studies refers to the city of Shaka. In fact, it is an ex-UNESCO site in Sicily, where the principles of the velocity were verified through the analysis of action directed towards making this heritage accessible to others and creating also an economic model where ethics and results are no longer in opposition. The experimentation in Shaka reveals how the art-based approach could mitigate the speed of accommodating different dimensions in a multiple space. The systemic analysis process of the art infrastructure of historical center, redeveloped by the collaboration between artisans and local community, can assume in this sense the transferability requirements in other contexts to face the dynamics of gentrification and tourification of contemporary cities. The research investigates how the cultural heritage is able to regenerate itself over time by introducing key elements of performance in a continuous urban transformation. Methodological approach, in fact, is based on binomial slowness creativity. Such a relationship influences the way of life in temporal and physical dimension too. For this reason, the research introduced a hybrid model of intervention and also of validation of the benefits achieved. The study investigates how the renewed slowness of urban processes mitigates the degradation of settlement system and at the same time increases the social cohesion. So the slowdown in urban metabolism brings the city back to human dimension and dimension attending to the involvement of the community able of affecting the reactivation of a dialogue between parties and care of the context. The experimentation reveals how the art-based approach affects the speed of this kind of process by validating art as a regenerative potential of cultural heritage. The hypothesis is based on this kind of binomial that we said before, slowness, creativities. And this relationship is the relationship that influences the order of housing in temporal and physical dimension. Conceptually, it refers specifically to the planning slowdown of city, based on a creative principle of renewal the urban policies. So the settlement system changed through a planning slowness, the temporal dimension of which helps to discover creative ways of living cities. The latter, in fact, maintain their capacity to accommodate different dimensions in a multiple space, but at the same time it became slow in the way they are living. So the active involvement of privileged and large-scale stakeholders showed the ability to preserve heritage and how it can increase in conditions of creativity, both that the slowdown of urban metabolism offer a new opportunity to read the links of the city. And for this reason, from the mixture of these factors, it's possible to regenerate forms of sustainable economy related to the cultural production and also to the sharing and cooperation too. This means that the settlement system regeneration could be a rendition of cultural heritage as the main development resources for balancing the merging of material and immaterial values of the built environment. So, the slowdown of aggressive urbanization of the city through practice over the discovery, awareness, and consolidation of the intangible values of cultural heritage is a sustainable evolutionary tool. The progressive slowness assumed allow the user to regain his own dimension within a complex system like that of contemporary cities. The research introduces a regeneration model aimed at increasing the social cohesion and improving the quality of the built environment. The slowdown in urban metabolism brings the city back to this kind of human dimension, as we said before, and the community's involvement is able over activity and dialogue between the parties and the care of the context. In the end, in conclusion, in fact, Shaka is a good practice, but there are a best practice too for building a heritage community. And all the factors that keep together this kind of practice can be individuated in community, sustainability, identity, and beauty. The community, because the entire community has chosen to script the page of its future, its history and the well-being through the shared project. Everything they are, the hidden rhymes, the arts, the history, their identity, represent an offer which was built by the community itself. In this sense, the identity became the touristic key for people who came to visit this place. Places that are saturated with millennia of history and culture, children of a unique land that the ancient glorified and now shared with the tourists as a temporary citizens. This is the key for the sustainability aspect, both economic and environmental one, and this kind of sustainability was adopted by the community, which felt itself responsible for future that doesn't solely belong to them. A networking of local people sharing their skills, selecting local products, and other factor is necessary to celebrate values coming from the land, avoiding all possible waste, and this is represent for tourist flow a deep transformation in temporary citizens. Not more, no tourists more, but these tourists became temporary citizens. And the last is the beauty. The beauty before heritage of history, art, architecture, craftsmanship, landscape, archaeology, agriculture, style, gastronomy, environment, and tradition that have the right to be rediscovered, protected, and celebrated. So, to fully comprehend their value, this practice promote action that facilitate their enjoyment through storytelling and development in a new way of regeneration, but also of economy, where the profit and ethics are no longer in opposition. So thank you for your attention, and as I said at the beginning of presentation, I'm glad to join this conference. Thank you.